Well, guys, you know what time of year it is. Yes, it's the end of the year. It's biopic time. It's Oscar bait season. Let's talk about A Complete Unknown. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of A Complete Unknown, the newest film from director James Mangold. Okay, guys, it's biopic time. It's time to talk a Complete Unknown, which, of course, is part of the song that has like a Rolling Stone in it. This is a movie, of course, about Bob Dylan himself. It is starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. It's a movie about how he became a cultural icon, how he changed music and became one of the most influential musicians of all time. And like most biopics like Walk the Line, this kind of goes to his like early days when he was trying to be a struggling artist to his eventual rise to fame and how he went against the grain in the world of music. And so this is a movie that stars Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Boyd Holbrook. It stars, of course, Monica Barbaro, Scoot McNairy, Dan Fogler. It's a movie with a lot of cast members that have worked with James Mangold or are part of the biopic scene in a lot of respects. But it's basically Bob Dylan creating his songs, going against the grain, being kind of an a-hole in a lot of respects, but changing music forever in a lot of respects, like the Beatles. So your excitement or your love for this movie is going to be dependent on how much you really like Bob Dylan, how much you really like biopics. It's a movie I was looking forward to because I like James Mangold. I think, Walk the Line and Ford vs. Ferrari are entertaining films. They're not perfect films. They're very much crowd pleasers. And from what I've heard from this movie and what the trailers have represented, that's what, of course, Complete Unknown was going for. It was going for a crowd pleaser. It was going for Oscar bait, and it was going for a really strong performance from Timothée Chalamet, as well as, songs that you know and love. So the real question remains, does this movie escape the traditional biopic formula, and is it really worth watching if you're not a Bob Dylan fan? Well, let's put it this way. I was not a huge fan of this movie. It does follow the biopic formula, the musical Bohemian Rhapsody formula. It's a movie that is entertaining. It's way too long, but it's entertaining. It gives us music that, if you know Bob Dylan, you know. It gives us performances that are definitely Oscar bait performances, like Timothée Chalamet and Edward Norton. But it's a movie that James Mangold has done before and done better. This movie is just, it's not very interesting. It follows so many tropes of here we have the guy that's kind of in the beginning of his career and then he becomes big and there's, issues with his home life and there's issues with the people around him. And then it gets to the conclusion where similar to like Elvis or similar to Walk the Line, where this guy is, transcended culture, and it follows that formula. And at this point, unlike something like Steve Jobs, it's kind of boring. It's kind of rote. It's kind of just, I don't care anymore about these biopics. They're the same thing over and over and over. And therefore, I just didn't find this movie very interesting. I found it kind of boring, to be fairly honest. I found, this movie to look beautiful and sound beautiful and performances are pretty good. But it just, once again, it skips over a lot of interesting stuff about Bob Dylan. It goes, like what Bohemian Rhapsody did, where the songs just kind of come naturally and there's not enough time spent on those songs. And, it's one of those things that is very Hollywoodized. It's kind of a very traditional biopic, and it doesn't do anything new. Like I said, when I went back to Steve Jobs, that movie was taking 3 segments of Steve Jobs' life and really fleshing out the really interesting parts of those particular things that he was putting out there on the market. Here, it's just kind of like we're going beat by beat by beat. We're seeing moments and moments and moments. Some of these characters may exist. A lot of them are real people. The character is played by Elle Fanning, is not the actual real person that he was dating at the time. Of course, the Joan Baez character, the Monica Barbaro character, has a lot of history with Bob Dylan, and there's you have to have the anger and frustration and all that stuff. And then, Johnny Cash, the Boyd Holbrook character, has to come in and be kind of his his Jiminy Cricket in a lot of respects. And then Dan Fogler and a bunch of other people are just kind of in the background as people that have no dimension or no characterization. And it really just becomes it rolls and rolls and rolls and it skips and skips and skips. So even at 2 hours and 20 minutes, there's just not enough there. It feels like cliff notes of Bob Dylan's life. And so therefore, I just really wasn't a fan of this movie. But James Mangold is such an interesting director, such a fun director when he's doing stuff like, 310 from Yuma, or of course, Logan, when he goes and does something different. It just feels like when he goes back to the well, and, even Girl Interrupted was a really interesting movie, one of his earliest in his careers. But when he starts doing stuff like this, it really feels like it's almost like a paycheck movie that he's on autopilot, and it just follows those beats. Yes, it's interesting to see Bob Dylan. It's interesting to see Timothée Chalamet play Bob Dylan. I think he's actually really good in the movie, but everybody else is just really not that great, to be fairly honest. The story's really not that great. It's, yes, Bob Dylan, but I think watching, I think it's like I'm Not Here or I'm Not There, the one where they had a bunch of people playing Bob Dylan, is a much more interesting film, which was not like a hugely great film, but it was much more interesting, at least attempted something different than what this movie does. So this movie will be a crowd pleaser. This movie will be successful in the fact that people love these types of movies, but I am personally, me as a critic and me as somebody who loves movies, finds this boring, finds this rote. This is going to be a movie that gets a lot of Oscar buzz, probably get a lot of Oscar nominations it doesn't deserve, to be fairly honest. Timothée Chalamet, sure, whatever, put him in there if you want, but I've seen so many performances this year in the acting category that are much more deserving than Timothée Chalamet, who's basically trying to aid Bob Dylan instead of doing his own thing. So overall, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I don't think it works. I think it's very traditional by the book, and if you like those types of things, it comes out Christmas Day. Definitely go see it. But if you want something more, definitely check out I'm Not There. Definitely check out Steve Jobs. Check out something that kind of goes beyond the traditional biopic, that actually takes the character, takes the individual that they're kind of going off of, and does something new and spins with it, instead of this kind of old same schlock. So that's how I feel about A Complete Unknown. It's one of the most disappointing movies. You'll see this on another list later on, but it's one of the most disappointing movies I've seen this year. It's something I was really looking forward to. So especially with James Mangold directing it. Once again, very cool looking movie, just not very good. So anyways, with that said, that'll be my take on A Complete Unknown. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below, if you are a Bob Dylan fan, let me know what your favorite song is from Bob Dylan. If you're not, tell me if you like this movie or if you watched it, so that let me know in the comments. But with that said, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell, top to fun's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.